Revelation.
Okay.
Revelation 13.
Revelations 13.
Mm-hmm. That's, that's what,
You broke up just now.
I'm thinking out loud.
Okay.
The beast of the sea and the beast of the land, the earth, that's what it is. Yeah. Um, yeah, you go ahead.
All right, we're recording. We're streaming.
Okay. I thought about something interesting in there.
Sage, you're coming in muffled.
I'm up.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. What about now?
Now you
That
sound.
better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I read Revelations 13 again, and when it talked about the beast of the beast of the earth,
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. All right, did you just get started when something dawned on you?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
You did. The reference in Revelation 13, where it speaks concerning the beast of the earth and the beast of the sea. And I read that because Andrea had expressed interest in it. She was saying that it kept coming to her that particular chapter. And as I read it, I remembered, I think it's Revelation 21 when it says there will be no more sea. When he talks about the new heaven and the new earth. Then I asked myself a question. What was the reference in when it said there'd be no more sea?
Okay.
If the beast of the sea represents religion, right? Then it says there will be in the new heaven and new earth there will be no more sea. Would you think that is referencing religion as well?
The sea itself? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If the beast of the sea is religion, and the beast of the earth gets its power from the beast of the sea, right? If there's no more, if that is true, then that would also mean that religion would disappear. That's not.
If you're talking about,
Go ahead.
if you're talking about religion, the way that religion is now,
Yes, absolutely.
It's been diminishing a long time. So its power in the minds of people, because people give it power, have been diminishing. Its power has been diminishing a long time now. So, I mean, that could be what it means, that given the way religion has responded in light of all of the isms and schisms that we've been talking about, and now culminated in what's happening now in its response, it could very well mean that people do not trust in that anymore.
But is it religion or Christianity that we're talking about, or they're the same? Hello?
I say Christianity, Islam, all of them are the same. They seek to control people.
So, again, is it religion? Or,
Yes.
okay, so they're the same, one and the same.
Yeah, religion is something that you believe in, that you worship, something that you see as a guide for your life from a spiritual perspective. So it doesn't matter whether it's Hinduism, Christianity, all of them are religions.
Okay.
See, this is my belief, where now the reality of it is that whether it was Jesus or Muhammad, Buddha, whoever it was, none of them intended for what they taught to become an organized religion. However, when we look at Revelations, if we are understanding it correctly with the beast of the city, then it makes sense. As Barbara talked about how the religions have been diminishing throughout the years up until this point. I think that's interesting because out of all the times that I've read that, I never thought about it. I never made the connection between with the new heaven and new earth, there will be no more sea. I never made that connection to Revelation 13 until now. Is that help you, Evelyn?
Yes. Thank you.
Barbara, did you have something else to add to that?
No, sir, I'm still trying to find out where you're reading from in Revelation. I just remember that that's there.
Oh, okay.
Revelation's what?
What, the 13?
Revelation 13?
That's the one. The beast of the sea gives power to the beast of the land. And I think it's Revelation 20, is it? Where there's the new heaven and the new earth comes in. Those are the two that I'm referencing.
Okay.
When Audrey comes on, let me know, please.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is something else that's happened during the course of this week. I've been receiving text messages inviting me to church. Inviting
To church?
Yeah.
To video church, right?
So, we're having a drive-in home Sunday service. That's what it is, yeah. And I have been invited several times to a drive-in church. I think the drive-in to it. I think the drive-in to it.
All right.
So silly.
This is the drive-in church. May I have your order, please? What would you like to hear? Your itching ears.
Just one thing, man. Yeah. And then I was asked, so during times like these, how do you serve community? And my response to that was, you don't. And I started to explain that we don't deal with that in the same way anymore, but I didn't. And there was no request for explanation when I did the However, another invitation came. Now, why do I bring that up?
Sage, please repeat
Uh-huh.
what you said, because you went out for a minute.
I said that when I said to them, we don't celebrate communion, right?
Okay.
And another invitation came for me to attend the church. And I asked myself, why? I'm saying, why I'm telling you this? Because I have not been invited to anybody's church. I don't know when. They only invite me to sit in the pew, let alone do anything else.
Okay.
So I was asking myself, why? Why the invitation? And it dawned on me. One of the people who was inviting me, I've gotten a feeling they wanted me there because it kind of legitimizes stuff, you know?
I could see that.
And the other one, the other thing that came to me is that it made sense because it was forcing me to pay attention to religion in a different way. I'm saying that the idea of my understanding of the seed being representative or symbolic of religion, ceasing to be, did not dawn on me until after these invitations were coming in. So I believe that these invitations were there to legitimize what was happening or to push me to a place of paying attention to religion itself. And when I began thinking about it, that's what dawned on me. So I think that Barbara is spot on when it comes to the diminishing of it all. Because right now, people are running around trying to figure out what to do next. And it's funny because I can imagine them sitting on top of cars, listening to somebody preaching and talk. And I wondered what would happen if it started raining and you got to roll your windows up. I'm serious.
I know, but it's.
I can just see it in motion.
I've been giving some serious thought to this thing.
Yes, you have.
You're not gonna make it rain, are you?
Audrey's coming on.
I don't have enough money to do that.
Oh!
Hi, Audrey. Sage, Audrey's on.
Where is Sheldon when I need him?
That's so sick.
What's wrong, Anthony?
Your pastor being being himself.
Go ahead and tell her.
I wanted to know, Audrey, if you have any questions pertaining to Revelation 13. I don't know what else I'm talking about.
Audrey, apparently churches here have been inviting pastor to drive-in sessions or drive-in celebrations.
That is her.
everybody parked there for church, and it starts raining, and they have to roll their windows up.
You hear her, Audrey?
I heard her, but I'm not sure what she's talking about. I'm
Say
not
it again,
following.
Janice.
Ramon, you say it. You're closer to Audrey.
Oh. Sage was telling us he had several invitations to drive-in church.
Oh,
In his
okay.
thinking about the process of why, he said, what would happen if everyone who was sitting on on top of their cars listening to the speaker, it suddenly started raining. So we
Yeah.
were in that part of the process. We all found that very funny. And Janice said, are you going to make it rain, Sage? And he said, I don't have that much money.
Oh, boy.
So that's where you came in.
I thought he could just wave his hand.
It's going to be a good day.
Okay, I have lots of questions about Revelation 13 because I don't understand it. I don't understand what's what in terms of the symbolism.
They'll miss the message if it's raining and they can't hear because their glasses up. Whatever they came for.
Anyway, all this came from Revelations 13. And I want you to know if you have any questions in relationship to that, Audrey.
Sage, Audrey just said she had lots of questions. Can you hear her?
I did not.
Okay, let's see what's going on here.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on.
Y'all can hear me, yeah?
Can you hear her now?
Oh, yeah, I hear.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I said I have lots of questions because I don't understand what the symbolism.
I don't hear her.
He said he
Oh,
don't
you
hear.
did?
He said he don't hear her.
She said she has lots of questions. You don't hear her, Sage?
I want to know what the questions are.
Oh,
Let me get there. I don't understand. I mean, I know we talked about the beast of the land is religion, and the beast of the sea is. I mean, the beast of the land is government, and the beast of the sea is religion. But then in there, they're talking about a bunch of other stuff. About the well, I have to get there first. I'll tell you in a minute. But I don't understand all the symbolism of who is who and what is what.
I don't understand all of it, but I think that through discussion we can get a clearer understanding of what we do understand, as opposed to all of it.
So, like in the first verse, it says, I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems upon the horns, and a blasphemous name upon its head. And the verse...
10 is law. And
Okay.
7 is completion of man. Or like divine completion, it is human completion or Adamic completion. So the beast of the sea itself alludes to the spiritual nature of our earth consciousness. And out of earth consciousness come the laws that govern man in relationship to spiritual nature. Did you hear me?
Audrey, did you hear him?
Yeah, I heard you. Okay.
Now,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I have a question right here. If the beast is the spiritual nature of earth consciousness, and out of that comes laws that govern, did you say spiritual man?
Yes, your man's spiritual nature.
Okay. Then this law has to do with man and nothing about kingdom principles, correct?
Right. It's actually it's man's interpretation of kingdom principles, because when you really think about the Bible itself, it simply tells man how to treat each other. You know?
Yeah.
And kingdom principles speak to the relationship between men and the earth, predicated on love. If you love your fellow man, then there are certain things you really won't do, as well as certain things you will definitely. And so, if we take those principles and we use them to govern in the way that we choose to, then what we've actually done is created religion. Example, an example of that is, if I love my fellow man, then I'm going to do whatever it takes to help them. Sometimes that seems to be negative, but I'm still going to do what it takes to help them. But if you look at religion, if you don't belong to my church, I can't.
Yeah.
If you do belong to my church and you can't render tithes, there is no help for you anyway. You're just a number, so that I could boast about how large my congregation is. So these are those. When I talk about 10, I just talk the number 10. These are the laws that govern the church, which actually becomes doctrine. And when I say church, please understand, I'm talking about a church of the synagogue. Okay, I'm talking about a gathering. So I'm not identifying that as Christian at all, because if you look at the religions of the earth, what you will find is that all of them are pretty much the same when it comes to making efforts to manipulate humanity. Barbara James. Was that answer to your question? Anybody home?
Did Barbara?
That answers my question.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. But then, Audrey? You said you had several questions?
Yeah. Um, okay, so what is it? It says it has 10 diadems upon its horns and a blasphemous name upon its heads. Okay, I know the diadems are crowns or whatever, but anyway. And then verse 2 said, and the beast that I saw was like a leopard, and its feet were like bears, and its mouth like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. What did we say the dragon was? Or did we ever discuss that?
I don't think we discussed that.
So what is the dragon in this case?
Is it possible that that dragon is connected to the Kundalini or and that, Pastor, you'd have to explain what the Kundalini is. I just know that it's symbolized by a dragon, which makes me think that maybe we were the ones who gave it its power, like from the very root of our.
It could very well represent the Kundalini, because it talks about. Read that again, Audrey.
And the beast that I saw was like a leopard, its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority.
The reason I say the Kundalini is because it rises from the sole of your feet to the crown of your head, and it gives power to man, even though man does not realize it. The power that comes from it, and man's emotions and responses to relationships are based on those powers. Now, as far as the lion, the bear, those animals, I see those as representing the thoughts of man in terms of his beastly nature, because when it talks about the name of blasphemy, that's speaking to a false religious leader, because blasphemy is is anything that separates you from the true power of the Creator. So that's speaking to that in itself is describing the nature of religion itself. Any questions about that?
Okay, so the animals are referring to our symbolism for religious thought or man's thought.
Yeah. Okay. A leopard is self. A bear is powerful, and a lion is in the mouth of a lion. The roaring as a lion, so it's frightening but controlling. The bear is vicious in its way, and the leopard is self cunning.
Mm-hmm.
Now that sounds like religion.
Mm-hmm.
And because it does control people in a cunning way, in a manner that is not readily seen. You have to kind of sort of step back from it in order to be able to see the nature of it. Not only that, a lion is very territorial. Okay?
Yes.
Continue with your question, please, if that's clear enough.
Yeah, it's getting clearer.
Okay. And your next question? I do not mind help at all.
Verse
The next
3.
question.
One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth followed the beast with wonder. So it had 7 heads, right? And one of the heads seemed to have a mortal wound. We said 7 was the completion of man, of the Adamic man.
Yeah, man's perfection.
Okay.
When it seemed as though religion had met its match, when it seemed as though it was not going to accomplish its goal, it actually what was healed, meaning that it regained its strength. That happened, especially with Catholicism and Islam, for that matter. And how did it regain its strength? The way Catholicism did it is through the Crusades. The way Islam did it is through the bombings that we see now, the brutality. Both of them are brutal in the way that they regain their strength. And when it talks about a head being wounded, it's talking about leadership authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Sage, I kind of want to sum up what you've already gone through. So in my mind, I'm thinking that the earth, man has been following, and we've said this, following an illusion. With the head wounded, it seems to me like it's kind of like zombies. If I were to put it into a picture in my mind, we're just following mindlessly in awe of something that has no benefit,
No life.
no life.
Yeah.
Okay. This all makes sense now.
I'm reading ahead in Revelations 12, where it talks about the woman, the child, and the dragon. To go back to the issue of the dragon, and it talks about the dragon and its angels being cast down.
Where are you reading from, Miss Barbara?
Revelations 12. Really, verse 7, but there's some stuff in verses 1 through 6. But okay. I'm at verse 7, where the dragon, 8, where the dragon was, there was a war, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but they were not strong enough, so they were no longer. It speaks of this whole symbolism of the devil being cast out of heaven or something like that, or evilness, or contrary thoughts being cast out of heaven. So the huge dragon, it is the devil and Satan who deceives the whole world, was thrown down to the earth and his angels with him. So my question is, that could it be that the same reference to first thought was the same dragon that Audrey was talking about before.
Could very well be. The dragon deals with represents deception based upon what you read in verse 12. Chapter 12. That would make all the sense in the world. That the dragon itself represents deception. And
So then the father of deception, going back to what you were talking about, is what leads mankind, who, in general, with an earth's consciousness, follows the father of deception.
yeah. I see this, Barbara, and the way you do now that you're talking about it from there, that Revelation is referencing in a cryptic way what happened in the garden and the result.
So it harkens back. It harkens back to me, this whole thing about knowing the end and the beginning. Well, in the beginning, we read about in the beginning of the beginning, not the beginning before the beginning. We read about in Genesis the garden and all of that stuff. And here we are in Revelations, then back to that reference to the garden, and it refers to everything that happened between the first appearance of man in the garden and where man is now in terms of, being in that coma and what he's been dreaming about or whatever, and the results of what happens to him if he doesn't wake up to truth.
And now, are you saying that what Revelation is actually telling us is what's happening, what has been taking place, and God is showing us where we are right now? Based upon what you said, are we in the process of waking up, of becoming aware of the reality that surrounds us, that we have been blinded to?
I'm saying that yes, some of us have begun that process of waking up, and some of us are still asleep. And what's happening right now is that thing that jars. We've talked about having that experience that jars you personally before you begin to search inward and to know who you really are. Well, it seems as if this pause of this, what's happening now, is jarring humanity globally, so that they have an opportunity to wake up. Because it is, we talked about balance and harmony for human consciousness and for the earth and its environment, and for what was the other one? The heavens and anyway, we talked about that. If we could have developed that and put our own boundaries around it, we would not have thought to do this, I don't think. But when we said, this is what we desire balance and harmony. And that when we breathe out, it brings that balance and harmony to human consciousness, to the earth and its environment. And I'm blocking on it has to do with the heavens and whatever, and the cosmos. Anyway, so had we been able to, and we keep saying, we continue to say, what we're doing is speaking in alignment with what we believe the Most High desires, because that's always been the desire that we live in harmony and balance with all people and with all things that were created by it. And it's gotten so out of kilter, we said, okay, we just desire the balance. But if we had been allowed to put our own boundaries around it, we would not, I don't believe I would have ever said, okay, Lord, and I want this to look this way.
Right.
I want it to look like, people are dying all over the world. And so what I'm saying is that we have to embrace what's happening as part of the things rebalancing and harmonizing again. And Revelations sort of speaks to everything that's possible if this doesn't happen. If there is no harmony, there is no balance. If this doesn't happen, this is what's likely to occur and what has already started to occur.
So, if this doesn't happen, what we are witnessing is the death of this type of man.
Correct. This could be the thing that saves the human in terms of reorganizing.
The death of this type of man and the death of this type of religion.
If this type of religion, if this type of religion does not cease, then this type of man will cease.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So it does not take vast numbers to turn the ship. The smallest part of the ship is the rudder. Yet it turns it. It takes a while, but it does it. Suppose where we are right now started January 1, 2012. And here we are 8 years later. And at a new beginning.
In that whole time we've been talking about how many people are dying. Leading up from 2012, we were always saying how many people were dying. And now it's like, woo, going in droves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to think about it, it gets our attention. Not only does it get our attention, but it begins to show us some things. We are kept in place in terms of not restructuring as much as redefining or recognizing again for the first time, if that makes any sense, what a family looks like. When I say family, I'm not necessarily talking about biology as much as I'm talking about a nucleus of people together. Ocean is cleansing itself because it doesn't have all those ships dumping all the waste in them.
Sage,
We see that, yes.
I need you to go back. You blinked out for a second. We didn't hear that part.
Which part?
Where you said after what we're looking at now, where we are now.
Where we are now is that we see the oceans cleansing themselves. We see the family nucleus. We see the ozone layers repairing themselves. Air pollution is the air is clearing up. People in LA can breathe, and people in China can see the sun. These kinds of things are changing, and all because of this pandemic. Now, the question becomes, what happens afterwards? What do we see afterwards? I think that our approach to that should be the same as our approach was to this. Simply say that our desire is the same thing. Harmony. Balance. That's it. As opposed to trying to describe what the Earth's atmosphere would be like and the attitude of humanity. Because if we are right in terms of Revelation, then Revelation is showing us what is, what was, and what can be. But it's all up to us. It's a funny thing that all of a sudden, without even thinking about it consciously, Revelation has our interest at a time when it appears as though everything is falling apart. So rather than looking at it as everything falling apart, I see it as everything being restructured. And I don't get me wrong, I don't see it as a bad thing at all. I see it as a very necessary thing. So, and going through Revelations, I think that we have to probably look at it as a allegory, and what I mean, not necessarily trying to define every piece of it, but taking chunks of it and understanding it that way, and then telling the story as the puzzle is put together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't think it's coincidental at all that Audrey's mind went back to Revelation 13. I don't think it's coincidental. I think it was drawn there because of what's happening. I still find it. Let me say this before I say that. The same. One of the people, I should say, who was inviting me to this drive-in theater church service thing, also asked me how were we meeting, and I said phone conference, and they asked me for the number, but nothing in me would allow me to give them the number.
That's understandable.
And I don't do it, but nothing in me would allow me to do that.
Well, I mean,
I remember.
it just brings to mind for me that, now that they can't put the show on, they want somebody to come with some substance to hold the people.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the people to drift away.
You know what? You're probably right, because think about it. When I think about it this way, they did not invite me before this happened.
Right.
But they knew.
Right.
The reason they didn't is because all of them know that I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now they want the teacher. Right. In the latter days, they were crying, Lord, Lord, save me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I depart from me, I know you're not. I'm not. I'm not with that. I'm not. And I see that as saying, not depart from me because I don't want to be bothered with you as much as it is. You did not want the medicine when I told you what you needed to take, And now that you're dying, the medicine is not going to do you any good. So I don't see that, because for me to be involved in that, to me it would be an effort to prop up the religion that we see is detrimental. And I can't be a part of that. And believe you me, I'm just seeing all of this that I'm saying. And I didn't see this last week or during the course of the week when they were talking to me. I didn't see it. I see this now, that this is an effort to bring something to this religion, or something to these attitudes and beliefs that will hold them up. Now, also I see it as a distraction, because if I were to do that, then I would definitely not be able to talk about, well, we celebrating Palm Sunday because of resurrection. No. To bring me there would have me say to you that what you're doing is actually blasphemy, because there is no such thing as a resurrection on Sunday morning, that kind of stuff. And there is no need for communion, because if it were, then how can you say that the scriptures are totally spiritual when you're doing this ritual that says you need to do this ritual if you can't remember who I am? So I just couldn't see myself doing that, that's all. Because if I were to do that, what would happen? I'd be crucified. And I would want to resurrect, come back in. Mm-hmm. But does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. I have to be true to who I am. I wouldn't be able to sit there and respond to their inquiries the same way that I would before I begun to see the true nature of what the scriptures are saying. I couldn't do that.
Well, it also seems to me that this phone line is just as sacred as the house we gathered in. And, people are welcome to come, but they have to make the drive and come sit and face people that they don't know in uncertain circumstances. And a lot of those folks who did come never came back. And I don't think being able to dial into a phone line and just listen and take notes or whatever, and you don't have to look us in our faces, it just doesn't seem right. It just, I completely understand.
It seems to me that the idea of sitting there and looking in our faces is the earthly thing to do, right? And because if we could see people in that house being a desire to communicate spiritually, and we see all around the religions that are dealing with doctrines of convenience, when you get to the stage where you can only communicate spiritually, i.e., earthly spiritual communication is through the airwaves, the internet, etc.
Right.
And now you want to connect to this spiritual communication in your way, as opposed to having desired it before. You really don't want it. You just want something to authenticate what you believe.
Yeah.
So that in itself is a collision between the two worlds that cannot happen. Is that what you were saying, Janine?
Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
No, I wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Oh.
Because there are quite a few people who have come through, not just Foundation, but Great in Faith as well. And they're no longer there. Yet, now that we're at this place where, quite frankly, we are pretty much the only group of people who are meeting consistently. And now it appears as though they're searching for some way to maintain. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Excuse me, because that means that they are open to something. And the something that they are open to, they don't understand. So if we continue to do what we do, and there is a desire on their part to understand or to reach, or they are reaching out for something, and we keep putting it in the macro, then they keep receiving from that power. And in addition to that, I believe that we have an opportunity to take this confused energy that's searching for something structural. We have an opportunity to take that energy and structure it, not structure it by defining what it's going to look like, but structure it in a way that guides it towards a desire for harmony and unity. Now, what I'm hearing is they're not calling it harmony. They're not calling it balance. They're calling it peace. Looking for peace and understanding that there's opportunity for humanity to recognize itself for what it is, as opposed to competing for the things of the earth, rather than actually just becoming one entity that supported each other. Are there any other questions or comments?
Just a thought. What peace really means when someone says, shalom, or may you have peace, it means may you have balance. So they're saying the same thing, they just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. Yeah. And that's what the search is for now. I honestly believe that at some point this whole dilemma that humanity finds itself in is going to be like turning the water off from a faucet. It will end just that quickly. But I don't think it's going to end that quickly simply because they find a vaccine or a cure or whatever. The end to that is spiritual. I listen at the epidemiologists talk, and I listen at those who are the virology experts talk. And out of all they have done in terms of analyzing this virus, they still don't understand it. Yet, it's supposed to be a virus that they're familiar with because it's the same virus as common cold, just the structure is different. But they don't understand it. They don't understand the transmission. They don't understand the virulence. They don't understand how to denature it. And that says to me more than anything else that this is more spiritual than anything. That the Creator has gotten to a place where He's heard the cries for balance and peace. Questions, comments?
just to comment that uh, we who have some knowledge, not nearly all of knowledge, but some knowledge of what's going on, we need to stay the course. You know, when others are acting in fear, we still need to stay the course and be grateful and thankful. Not that people are dying, no, but that there's some restoration being taking place. That when all of this has gone through its moment, its period, that there will be people waiting to understand themselves even more deeply, and that there will be people who made the decision that they're not going to live the way they used to live, that they're not going to think the way they used to think. And so there's going to be some spiritual fallout to this spiritual occurrence. And that spiritual fallout will not be necessarily a negative thing, but a positive thing.
I can see that. And as you were speaking, my mind went to not just the religious nature of it, but the economics of it as well, which actually is government in action. Even if we try to prop up the economic system by virtue of bringing people back into the workplace, you're going to destroy humanity. If you don't bring people back into the workplace, your God is going to die. Your economic system is going to collapse. If you try to maintain your religious beliefs in the manner that you've done it in the past by congregating, then you're going to destroy everyone who believes as you do. If you don't do it, then those doctrines and principles will die of their own weight. So it's a catch-22. The Creator is saying, okay, you got a choice. You can let the system collapse and raise up a system that takes the whole of humanity into consideration, or self-destruct. You can search for the truth in the spiritual realm of understanding, or you can maintain your doctrine of belief and be destroyed. I mean, think about it. Here we are. A man who desires $63 million jet, all of a sudden, his people are beginning to see him for who he is. They are not liking what they see. But for the first time, they are seeing. Even though their eyes have been opened, they're no longer seeing with their eyes. They're seeing with their eyes. And that's the whole difference. That's what makes the difference. Because when they saw with their eyes, they were being entertained in their mind. But when they're seeing with their soul and with their eye, they're being informed by their soul. And therein lies the difference. So when we come together again as facilitators, one of the major things that my desire is for us to address is anxiety. Because I really don't want the level of anxiety to grow to the point where it becomes blinded, or to grow to the point where the anxiety becomes a wall between what is being shown and what is being seen. So, and I think if we address that, the anxiety, we can experience a turning, or we can experience the light at the end of the tunnel, or the light that's in the midst of the darkness. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Any questions about that? Or comments, of course.
I have a few. Going back
Joe?
to, yes.
No, Janice was searching for you earlier, that's all. Go ahead.
In terms of what Barbara was talking about a moment ago, I think that is done by acknowledging and make showing to notice and see and embrace the good things that are happening in midst of all of the changes that are taking place. Don't lose that. Let that be a loss, and not acknowledge and seeing. It is while focusing on those things that those types of things are sent more energy and or expanded. You said something, Pastor Richard, earlier today. I can't remember the exact words, but you said something about it seems like everything was falling apart to some people, and then I was thinking another way to look at that is more so of a huge mix-up, shake-up, and rearrangement into things being moved and shifted, and things actually not falling apart, but actually falling in place. Something else that I was thinking about that I forget. Maybe it'll come back in a second before we get off.
So that makes all the sense in the world. I can see that falling into place as opposed to falling apart. That's it.
No difference from when you clean your house or anything like that. It seems like it gets a heck of a lot worse before it starts to get better. And if you don't have enough energy to power through, you be like, oh man, I'm definitely going backwards here. I can't quit. I have to keep going because this was worse than it was. When you were talking about the guy and him asking for the number and the things like that, and Janice had chimed in, I think it all comes down to the genuineness of anyone's heart that are actually seeking, and that actually determines how things transpire. And even if we don't notice it, or anyone for that matter doesn't know it from a conscious standpoint, it is one thing that is inherent to who we truly are, is actually speaking and understanding a language, which is from genuineness and from the heart. Some of us do it a lot better than others. Some of us, of course, get better at it over time. But if that guy had came to you with a genuineness and was really seeking and searching for no ulterior motive, anything like that, and was actually coming from, I say, a humble standpoint, or state, but when I say a humble state, I just mean someone who is genuinely trying to learn and not just trying to prove something to themselves and being closed off, and not even trying to take in something new and grow in and expand. But if he had came to you from a humble standpoint, then all of the interaction between you would have been different. You would have been a lot more open, and you wouldn't have been able to not try to let that person expand. You would have done it naturally without any thought. So I think that was the huge difference between all of that. Now I'm done.
I agree, because honestly, that's the first time I could think of during this period that someone is asking for, the contact number, and I didn't give it. I just don't remember it ever happening before now. It may appear to some to be selfish, but honestly, I think is more protective than selfish, because it could be very dangerous to equip somebody with something they don't understand. Not just dangerous to them, but it could be a danger to other people as well, with them trying to explain it or with them trying to dismiss it as being New Age stuff that is not of a Christian nature anyway. I think that's the difference. I'm just wondering. It's just my curiosity. I'm just wondering how things would be if they were on this line right now, hearing everything that's being said.
I think that part of it would be they would not understand a lot of it because you had to be. I mean, how long did it take us to reason with the Most High? That's what we do when we are asking the questions and asking you questions and I'm trying to understand. It didn't come immediately. There may be some who don't have spiritual baggage who might pick up on it a heck of a lot sooner. But those of us who have that spiritual baggage, it took a while to lift that burden so that we could see and understand a little bit more.
Which meant that you had to just sit back and when you say try to understand, it means to also not immediately dismiss. Like to genuinely, not saying that I agree with it, but let me genuinely try to view things or understand from this other viewpoint, from the other side. Not coming with the motive to only prove whatever this is that I'm hearing that is the new, different, wrong. Is a totally different. You're interacting with the, I don't know what to call it, the knowledge, the truth, understanding in a totally different way. It resonates with you differently. Your understanding of it changes. All the little, I guess, hidden but not so hidden gems that are just right there in front of you. You just change your eye. Go ahead, sorry.
And part of what you're saying, Sheldon, is that we move from reading and hearing and trying to understand, and then we started experiencing. And there's nothing that takes the place of experiencing that which you believe and seeing its fruition. And there are some people who have not, there are some people who have not had the opportunity to see their experience as the best thing, even if it seemed something bad happened to them, to understand that, out of that, there's some good, that there's a lesson in there for you. And if they haven't understood that and embraced that, it's hard for them to see, well, what's the lesson in all of the stuff that's occurring now? Because it's on a scale that humankind has never seen in this generation. And it could be in a lot of generations.
Yeah. Also, Barbara, in terms of the whole concept about social distancing, I think it gives us an opportunity where we have to appreciate being still, communicating with our loved ones, but at the same time, again, we don't have, all of the distractions, of what's so-called the traditional church and the music and everything else that goes on with part of that service. But now that you don't have that, how are you able to still maintain your spiritual disciplines and practical principles for personal transformation? So now, we have to appreciate that I need to be with my my loved ones and be at home, and now begin to appreciate how do we build on that foundation, for the spiritual nurturing at home, if that makes sense. I think the social distancing is bringing some of that out, I think, which is a blessing.
That resonates, George, because people have been thinking of the church, and I have to go there. But now there are some people who are grasping that my temple, where I reside, where my spirit resides, is my temple, and I don't have to be in a building, et cetera, et cetera. So you're absolutely right.
If I could just clarify, you mentioned, Barb, spiritual baggage, but I don't think it's spiritual baggage. I think it's more religion and doctrinal baggage, which doesn't allow people to get in touch with their spiritual side. But now, with people having to do whatever they can at home, they are starting to get in touch with their spiritual side, as opposed to, the distraction of all the whatever's happening in church, and the distraction of the pastor telling them, indoctrinating them to that religious dogma. So I think now they are starting to get in touch with their spiritual side, and they're having to listen. They're having to sit, listen, and wait to hear, because they don't have all that other distraction. So I think it's more religious baggage getting in the way as rather than spiritual, if you understand what I mean.
I understand, but thank you for clarifying. That's exactly what I meant.
In addition to what George was saying about being at home without the distractions, I think being at home, sometimes when you're accustomed to being out doing things, you look for distractions, and then all of them are gone. And now you have to deal with who's there with you and the thoughts that you have and conversations that you have. I feel like, and I think maybe I said this last week, I don't know if I did just that like I did. I feel like we are in the midst of a move, like being in Egypt with the blood on the doorpost. Don't go outside, stay in. If you want to avoid the plague, or if you want to avoid the loss of the firstborn, that kind of thing. That's where we are at this juncture, separated from each other, but yet we are connected to each other. Doctrinal of it, there was, in the doctrinal sense of it, there was no connection. Even though people were together, there was no connection. Even though we were in the same places, in those settings, there still was no connection. Right now, there's a greater connection than ever before. Yet, people are just not beginning to realize those connections. And if all of the provisions were being made to contend with this virus, then there still would be a disconnect. I believe that that's the reason that the medical staff do not have what they need. That's the reason that the governments in certain places are not issuing the order to stay in place. There's a reason that people are very cautious of when they go out, but at the same time they're connected. And what I mean by that is this: they're cautious in terms of the distance they keep between each other, but at the same time, they are connected in that they are more of an assistance to each other. When I was last in a store, I saw people reaching to shelves to help people get things. I saw people asking each other if they knew what things were in the store.
But prior to that, they would pass each other and then even hit each other.
Yeah.
So, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. People saying thank you.
I beg pardon?
I said people were saying thank you to individuals they wouldn't even probably have said thank you for the simple things they're doing. You're right.
They wouldn't acknowledge it at all.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I've ever heard anyone expressing a deep appreciation for custodians. I'm serious.
Yeah.
And custodians, if it were not for custodians, none of us could function.
Yep.
If it were not for the garbage people, none of us could function. Now, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first.
Mm.
The ones who were just a piece of the furniture or someone who people never even noticed, could never tell you what they look like, all of a sudden, they're being celebrated. That means something. When have you heard custodians be celebrated at the same time that you're celebrating doctors and nurses?
It took this, what's happening now, for people to understand the humanity of all people and the worth of all people.
Yes, absolutely. And that's important. And out of all of this, I think that this idea is not so much now, Barbara Jean, when we used to talk about self-worth, right? It's not so much of that as it is the total worth of humanity. Everyone is worthy of respect. Because when we talk about self-worth, we talk about caring for ourselves or not being expressive of low self-esteem. But I think it's just looking at every man about as, we are indeed our brothers too. And that custodial doctor relationship is making that more real than ever before. Let me ask you a question. Has there been any households in terms of friends or relatives who has left this earth as a result of this virus in your circles?
No.
No.
I got word of a pretty distant relative this morning, but not close.
Yeah. Now, I raised that because in the settings that we came out of, if it happened to someone else, we would pray for them and keep it moving. But now it's different. Even though there has not been an immediate loss, and I use that word loss loosely, there is a deep, genuine empathy for each other that we are fostering with the desire that this empathy goes beyond the group and people begin to transform this fear, this anxiety into empathy for each other as opposed to being afraid that you're going to catch something from somebody. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea now, I remember the age at the beginning when everybody was afraid they'd go get it from the toilet seat or a doorknob, that kind of thing. And now here we are. And when you're told you might get it from the doorknob tomorrow, you're told that you might get it from somebody breathing on you. Then you're told that you can walk into the space in the room where somebody was and get it from the air because it's airborne now. All of these things. So now it's not so much of being afraid to be around people as it is the unknown. can I be at my own house and someone walk past me, I'll go past the street or come to my door and I get it just by walking on my porch after they leave, that kind of stuff. That's what breeds fear, and that's what we have to change. And that's my story. Anyone else?
I have a question.
About time.
The plane, and we were dealing with the scriptures, but my question, I want to talk about the plane. Can we switch gears? Which we're not, but the plane that came from Russia with aid for America. Do you know what's that about? And why would Russia bring something over here when they have issues in their country?
I don't know what it's about. I've not heard about the one from Russia at all. Anyone?
Yeah, Russia sent a plane, half paid for, half donations of masks and supplies to aid our medical. But at the same time, in the news story, they also talked about how the pandemic is hitting Russia hard. So it seemed kind of noteworthy that they would do that.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead, Bobby.
but they're getting up a lot of quote unquote not spiritual but political leverage out of that. They could say that they gave to the great country of the world. They helped the great country of the world.
Okay.
So it's political capital that he's getting out of that.
Okay.
We have no idea how many of the folk in Russia have contracted this pneumonia from the COVID-19. We have none. Thousands and thousands and thousands could be.
Barbara?
Yes.
It cut
Can
off.
you hear me?
It cut off for a moment. You were talking about thousands and thousands.
Thousands and thousands of Russians could be dead, but we won't necessarily know about it. What we're seeing is the leaders of these two countries, the United States and Russia, who are always about doing things for political capital.
Okay.
Because they see that as the. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
No, they see that as of the utmost importance to them.
Okay.
Why would you accept it from Russia when they accept it from China?
Point.
Because that was a refusal to accept the same aid from China.
Isms and schisms.
Yeah. Yeah. When you, think about it. You don't want the Chinese mask. It's a KN95. But you want the N95, and CDC says the same thing. And probably they got to be, because the N95 is made in America, but it's also made in China. 3M has a plant in China that makes it up. So where do you think the Chinese got theirs from? So why you didn't want, but you want it from Russia? There has to be a reason for that. And Russia has always wanted to be, ever since the end of the Soviet Union, Putin's desire is to embarrass America. And the way that he has embarrassed America is by electing Donald Trump. And honestly, until the emperor is found negative, then the people don't see a need to chastise the emperor. And chastising the emperor has nothing to do with November. Chastising the emperor has everything to do with transforming a society into something that benefits all of humanity. Because right now, there are people who cannot pay their rent. There are 3+ million people out of work right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you evict all these people who are out of work, now you have a greater problem. If you don't evict all these people, you still have a problem. So the Creator is putting this society in a position to not be able to make decisions. No, either decision that's made that's geared towards the preservation of what was is going to be destructive. There is no decision that can be made that's going to preserve this society as it was before this hour. Not one. That's something to think about. Shoot, I could have planned it better myself. Like this.
I have a question. I noticed that the unemployment numbers from the past 2 weeks were both repetitive. The first wave, which was a record, was 3.3 million claims for unemployment, and then the second was 6.6 claims, which I guess would put us at 9.9. And I was just wondering if you noticed that and if you had any comments or thoughts about that.
All I can say is that it's 9.
I think part of it has to do you'll see it next month. It has to do with what week. There's one factor that looks at the week of the 12th, and there's another factor that looks at the 12th. And so a lot of these came in after the 12th, and so you'll see it next month when they say that these numbers will probably be at the depression numbers, if not greater.
Mm.
But I was just thinking about it as like you got 2 3s and then you got 2 6s, and then 2 9s. I mean, that very easily could have been, 2.8 this week and, 7.9 the next week. Like, it was just very, very clean, and it seemed significant that those were the numbers, at least that were reported initially.
Yeah, I hear you what you're saying, but even that 9.9 is 9, because 9 is 18, 8 and 1 is 9. And out of all the 9 is the one that I continually never remember.
Oh, I see. Well, what is 3?
3 is 2. And
3 is what?
Divine completion.
Okay.
And 6 is the weakness of man, manifestation of sin.
9 is also divine completeness, the fruit of the Spirit, and 9 is also, quote, from the Lord.
Right.
Interesting.
So it's 3 times 3. So anything that's repeated, when a number is repeated more than twice, that means that it is immutable.
It is what?
Immutable. It cannot be changed. It cannot be altered.
Then it's a promise, right?
Absolutely. Like a promise set in concrete.
All day.
I have a question. Pastor, have you read the report or seen the report that was out where they were talking about France was suggesting the possibility of testing the vaccine for coronavirus on Africans?
I have not heard that report. However, I do know that they are testing it in this country already on people who are terminal. I guess no one else has heard it.
Yeah.
But I do know that.
Yeah, I read it. They were saying that they were saying because of France, they're testing it all over in Europe, but there were, I guess, some kind of puzzle as to why is that not that many cases being reported in Africa. So, kind of like wanting to use Africans as guinea pigs to test the virus on. I mean, the vaccine on.
Well, I don't, as much as I have seen that, and I can't, it's hard for me to subscribe to that now because I know what's happening with the testing that's going on. And it's not, the people I've seen who they interviewed who they're testing the vaccine on, all of those people are Caucasian.
Okay.
So I don't, in that report,
Pastor,
okay. Go ahead.
so did you guys see on CNN about Trump saying that he's not going to wear the mask? He said it didn't look good on him.
And I agree, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I agree with 100%. And it's my desire for him to be divinely protected from COVID-19. The last thing that we need now is for something to happen to him and Pence to take over.
Well, it's working so far, Pastor. He's been divinely protected.
Yes, ma'am.
But why do you say you think he should not wear the mask?
Because he don't want to.
Okay.
He doesn't want to. That's his right. And he said, you don't have to wear it if you don't want to.
Okay.
This is America. You have a right to do whatever you want to do about the virus.
And your reason
But
for
anyway.
saying you didn't want Pence because you don't want Pence to take over is because
Pence is slick.
you're a snake.
He is a politician. And Trump Trump actually tells the truth.
He does.
And he lies when he lies, but he tells the truth about what's out there. Because his nature is the true nature of this country. What he is saying is the nature of this country.
I want to do what I want to do. That's true.
And with him, what you see is what you get, right?
What you see is what America is.
Or narcissist. What about us?
He is the essence of the U.S. The difference, okay, for example, everybody talks about what Eisenhower did. Eisenhower was a racist. Eisenhower is the one who did Operation Wetback. He took those people put on buses from South America and put them on the buses to Texas.
Someone need to mute their phone, Pastor.
Say he's walking.
It wasn't me. I'm talking.
I know. Someone need to mute their phones.
But you understand what I'm saying?
You said
I
Eisenhower.
can hear you.
Yeah, Eisenhower was a racist.
Eisenhower, and I'm saying that Eisenhower did the Operation Wetback, where he took those people from South America, put them out in the desert by the busload with no provision. And that was done quietly, but it was done. Nobody talks about that. Trump is not doing anything quietly. Everything he's doing is above board. All this other stuff about him taking money from education, that kind of stuff, so be it. They've been doing that. But I'm talking about in relationship to other nations, in relationship to people of color, in relationship to females, everything he's doing, he puts it out there. I don't like none of y'all. That's what he's doing. And I'm giving all the money I can to all the wealthy people because they didn't like me before I became president. Now I'm going to buy them so they'll like me. I'm going to give them my lunch money. That's who he is. That's who America is. Whatever it takes. Bottom line. So when I say yes, he lies, but he does tell the truth with his actions. Why do you think that the Democrat governors are not getting what they need? Because he doesn't like them. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He gave Florida
Well, that's what he said. I don't like him.
Yeah.
All right. So why is it that people of color, that all the grocery stores have been taken out of their communities? Jobs have been taken out of the inner city. Why? Because they don't like us. Same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The difference is Trump is showing you. I don't care what you think about me. This is like be. In America, they're like, well, the factories moved to Mexico to save money, and we didn't move them out of the inner city in order to throw people out of work. We actually needed to do that because of overcrowdedness. Yeah, okay. That's him. Trump says, no, we move because we don't want y'all in this country. That's Trump. That's the difference between the two. Of course, it's a bit hyperbolic, but that's their nature. Y'all done? You have any more questions?
Who you talk to?
I don't know. It's a lot of tone in that voice.
No, the tone was because it just irks me to think about how this society treats people.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that it was not directed toward anyone.
We love you.
I love you too. I mean, I just for most of my life I battled against this society and how it treats people, and to see how they have been able to cover it up and to run the risk of a pimp being in that position and able to cover it up. It's frightening to me. More frightening than it is with a McConnell or a Trump, because both of them are just alike. McConnell will tell you, I'm going to put judges on the bench who do not like people of color. He don't say it like that, but he says, I'm going to put people on the bench who believe what we believe. Ultra conservative people. What's that a code word for?
Don't like y'all.
Yeah, ultra conservative people don't like us. And that's what he's looking for to put on the bench. So he's not hiding it as well as Pence does, because he doesn't care. What did he say? He said, if y'all get the majority, then we're going to have to change the rules. Yeah. As long as I'm doing what I'm doing is okay. Yeah. That's him. Trump is saying, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. There has never been a person in that office who has done anything they wanted to do with impunity, except him. He's the only one. And that in itself speaks volumes about the times that we live in. I do not believe that this virus thing could have happened with any other leader than him. I don't believe it. Because the pandemic office would have been in place, and there would have been, the virologists would have been in China, and all of the equipment that they needed would have been provided, as they did with the Ebola thing. It had to be him. So there's no tone. I'm just sorry. Okay.
I was actually messing with you.
You hurt my feelings.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah. I really, I do get a bit excited when I'm dealing with that, because sometimes my spiritual nature gets intermingled with my political nature.
Oh, dress it up, Pastor.
It's all good.
He's not the only one who gets mad, though. That's for sure.
No, I'm
That's
talking about
true.
what he just said. He was dressing it up, but we hear you.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
I
he definitely was.
but a pig is still a pig.
Who is it? Which one of you all say you could put a dress on the monkey? Is that you, Evelyn?
Yeah. Audrey trying to say
Oh.
something, but Vermel, we can't hear
Go
her.
ahead.
You
Audrey
can't
was-
hear her.
I don't-
Audrey? You're on mute.
You must have muted yourself.
You muted yourself. Text her? Okay.
She's not coming through.
Mm-mm. Nothing's changed here. Not that I can see.
It might be a mic in her computer.
Oh, man, here.
Are you able to get her?
She's reading the text now.
Okay. Good thing we're not on radio.
Is your mic? Can you hear us, Audrey? She can hear us. Is your mic muted? Her mic is not muted.
Okay.
Speak again, Audrey. No, we can't hear her at all.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you
It
at
must
all.
be there's a glitch in Skype, I guess.
Could be.
What you think?
You know what? When we can't speak to each other this way, then our telecommunication powers will increase.
Yes.
Absolutely.
She's texting.
Still dancing.
She's texting Sage.
She said she don't know what's happening.
Okay.
Tell her we're practicing our telecommunication.
She said she will use me as her mouthpiece. Good luck, y'all.
Oh.
And that, when you say good luck, is exactly what it is. Labored under corrupt.
Boy, the love we have for each other. I'm waiting for it to come, the text to come through. Okay, guys.
All right.
I can't help but say this. This is going to happen this week across the country. You watch.
I hope it happens during the briefings.
During the what?
When you start giving this briefing every day.
Oh, that would be great.
She says, this is the text. did Trump say the voting laws can't be changed because no Republican would get elected again?
Oh.
You know, I heard something similar to that, but I did not hear him say that. But it does not surprise me that he would say that, because it's the truth. Now, that's an example. Ask yourself this. If he indeed said that, right, and I do believe he did, who else can you think of would have said that openly?
Nobody. They'd have dressed it up.
Would have said that? You think Pence would have said that? No.
Mm-mm.
That's what I'm talking about. That's how the system thinks. That's the reason the laws are being changed the way that they are. Because they know no Republican would be elected if people were permitted to vote in a honest fashion. No one else would have said that. That's why I want him to be divinely protected from any sickness that would result in his demise.
Okay.
He is telling us what this country looks like from the inside out.
Ellen, did the text say that Trump indicated he knew Republicans would not get elected again, or is that part of Audrey's question?
That's Audrey's question. Did Trump say the voting laws can't be changed because no Republican would get elected again?
Okay.
So I don't doubt that at all. I don't. And again, it is the truth.
She said he did say it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Great. Again, no one else would have said that. No one. You have to be someone with no filters, with no political acumen, and quite frankly, someone who is extremely juvenile in your thought processes. It's something like that. You expect your 5-year-old to say something without filters. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have any more questions?
Well, she just also texted Evelyn, how long are you going to put up with, Pastor?
Oh, dear.
No, I'm just teasing. She didn't say that. I'm teasing. And she's laughing.
Ooh, mercy. On that note.
If I touch that red button on my phone, I wonder what would happen.
Again, we love you.
If you push that red button, you'll be lonely. That's what will happen.
So are you the female version of Sheldon?
Yes.
Actually, he'll get a Staples delivery.
You know, I'll be so glad. Oh, somebody mute your phone, please. I'll be so glad when we get each other's presence again, because it breaks down to this. We just, outside of each other's presence, we know when we come to the end, because all you have to do is listen at the comments that Evelyn starts making and how everybody feeds into them like Janice and Sheldon.
How did I get into this? I'm innocent.
Very interesting how you excluded yourself.
All right, I'll go.
Oh, that's cool.
We would,
So why did I kill?
if you want, if you need to talk,
Oh, I'm almost dead, girl. I'm almost dead.
Hey, who's that talking?
I don't know. It's somebody who just the phone. But anyway, we will talk again next week, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Stay safe and stay healthy, guys.
Thank
Same
you.
to all.
You too. Love you all.
Love you, Audrey.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, speakers, you need to work next week.